Okay, hello everyone. We're going to do the first part of this series of tutorials to get this zombie project finished. As you know, the last time we left off, we got the zombie working with Manny in the level. So you can see right now he's patrolling. That'll look better, once we put this into an outdoor environment. I think it just looks weird because it's on this grid material right now. But anyway, this part is working. When we get into his field of vision, he'll run after us, and if he catches up to us, he'll begin attacking. And then if we evade him and wait for a second, I can go spy on him. You can see he's back into his patrolling state, and of course that resets. Okay. And by the way, you can have several of these zombies in the scene, but for now, you can just stick to the one that's in there, just get everything working first. What I'd like to accomplish in this part of the tutorial is just making our character. And if you'll recall, I like this one, which is called Rose, and I got this from the Epic Marketplace. This is a premium character. And Rose does come with her own animation blueprint, but it's pretty lousy, okay? I have to say the character looks terrific to me, but the animation blueprint is not very good. The animation blueprint, however, that comes with this character, let's see where she is, Ghost Lady, okay? I can show you the... well, I don't want you to have to see her with her clothes off, but let's just look at the mesh in Combines here. For this character here, this is not the character that I'm going to use because it's just not appropriate for the zombie game that we're making. But this character comes with a much better locomotion animation blueprint, and we're going to retarget these. Don't worry, because when you download the zip file and unzip it, I have already made IK rigs for all of the models that we're going to be stealing animations from. So you can see today I prepared this rigs folder, and in there I made an IK rig for Ghost Lady, and there it is. Here's all the mappings, and I did include the fingers just in case for all of them, okay? So you're not going to have to do the labor-intensive IK rigs because we've got a whole bunch of different sources that we're going to be getting animations from. And I made an animation blueprint, not an animation blueprint, excuse me. I made an IK rig for just a SK mannequin that comes with this animation pack. This is a full character also that has some good animations that I want to steal from. And it's also a cool character, by the way, for other projects, but we're only going to be using it for its animations. These two, and Ghost Lady, and of course Rose herself. So I made a whole lot of IK rigs today, and they're all identical, and therefore they're set up for very easy retargeting. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do then is to retarget the animations from Ghost Lady onto Rose. Okay, so let's go into the Ghost Lady. I probably put it in the meshes, characters, combines folder. Yep, there's the IK rig, and now I have to make an IK retargeter. So we'll right click, go to animation, IK rig, IK retargeter, and I'll call it RTG_Ghost Lady. Like that. Okay, and we'll open that up and select source IK rig to copy animation from. Well, of course, it's going to be the one that I made earlier, IK Ghost Lady, and that's in here somewhere. There it is. And the target IK rig to copy animation to, well, that's the one that I made for Rose. These wouldn't appear here if I didn't make those IK rigs in advance. But I did, and they're there for you, so you don't have to do that part, okay? But you should know how by now, because you've seen me do it so many times. Okay, so here we are in the retargeter, which I will dock. for the time being, just to make it big. And you can see that the two skeletal meshes are overlapping right now, so we're going to do a target mesh offset of 150 Unreal units, and now we can see them side by side. I'm going to just slow down my camera speed a little bit here so that I don't spaz out as much. Okay, good. Makes life a little bit easier, at least in this editor view. Okay, so before we start retargeting animations, let's go to the Chain Mapping tab. And remember, when I did the IK rigs, I made identical bone structures. So when we go to Auto Map Chains, we're going to use Map All Exact in this case. All right. Now we'll go back to the Asset Browser, and we'll filter just for animation sequences. Okay, so let's just check the animation sequences. And we can just go through several of them. Some of them that are, let's look at the idle, for example. Anim idle loop. See how that looks. Remember, this is the idle that came with Ghost Lady, and there's more than one of them. All of those look good so far. Okay, we can look at others like walk, and in walk, that looks good too. Okay, and you know, most of those lip sync ones we're not going to use anyway, but just want to make sure that all of these are translating well. And if not, you could go to any of the IK chains that have a goal, and you can play with this blend to source value if it looks like the arms or legs are not lining up in the way that you'd want them to. Okay, but I don't think it's necessary in this case because everything is looking pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead back to the Asset Browser, and I'm going to prepare a folder in Rose's directory to be the recipient of these animations. So we'll go into AE Rose, and right in the root folder for her, I guess, is I'm going to make a new folder called Retargeted Animations. And since they'll be coming from several sources, I'm going to organize a few more folders within here. Okay. One of them is going to be for what will eventually be her anim blueprint. So I'll make a folder for that. It'll remain empty for now. And then another folder, which I will call From Ghost Lady. Okay? And as we do more and more retargeting, we will have folders similar to this from the different retarget sources, okay? But for now, all of these animations are going to end up in this folder, okay? So we'll go back here, and I'm going to just highlight them all, Control A, and then Export Selected Animations, go into AE Rose, and Retargeted Animations, and select the folder From Ghost Lady. And we'll hit Export, and we'll let that do its thing. This might take a moment. So what I'll do is I'll just pause the recording. Oh wait, maybe I don't need to. Okay, they're all there. Okay, so we're going to now, while they're all highlighted, I'm just going to do Control S or Command S if you're on a Mac, and that will save them all. Speaking of, all of the other meshes that are in this that I brought in, I also brought in that weapon pack. I already activated Nanite for those, so you don't have to Nanite them yourself. They're already Nanited, and I took the liberty of Naniting all of the basic geometry in this arena, but ultimately, we're going to be deleting all of this anyway because we're going to build this out as an outdoor nighttime scene in, you know, maybe like in a graveyard out in the woods somewhere. So this is just a temporary test bed, okay? Anyhow, so now Rose is compatible with all of those retargeted animations, and if we look from if we just start previewing them, we're going to see these with Rose doing them. Okay, so that's the one that actually came with Rose. So She can do all sorts of things. We're not going to nearly use all of these, but that's the better idle, and we need to retarget attacks and things of that nature as well. But let's at least get her up and running so that she can run around in the level. Okay, so we can close that now. And let's save this retargeter and close it. We don't need that anymore. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to retarget the animation blueprint from Ghost Lady into Rose, into the AnimBP folder that we made for her. So let's go back to Ghost Lady, and we'll find the animation blueprint, which is going to be in here somewhere. It's in under Move Basic, okay? And here's female AnimBP. Now that all the animations are compatible, including the ones that are used inside of this animation blueprint, we can just simply retarget the blueprint. So again, I'm going to right-click, retarget animation assets, duplicate and retarget animation assets / blueprints, excuse me. Which IK retargeter am I going to use? Well, that of Ghost Lady. And it already predicted, in this case, that it's going to Rose, although I could have retargeted it to any of the other skeletons that I've prepared. But Rose is correct, so we're going to go ahead and retarget this. Now, when I do that, unfortunately, it's not going to put the animation blueprint where I want it. Let's see, folder game. I wonder if I can change it here. Yeah, preemptively. So I'm going to go into retargeted animations and select the AnimBP folder as my directory. Therefore, it won't just dump into the root content folder. And then we'll hit retarget. Okay, so these are the locomotion animations, which are technically redundant to what's inside that other folder, but it's not a big deal. And there is the actual animation blueprint itself. Let's open up that animation blueprint as well to make sure that it's got the default slot in the anim graph for the montages that we're going to be making later. Okay, look at that idle. That is a much better idle than Manny or Quinn or anything that the original Rose character came with. Anyhow, we're going to go to the anim graph, and I can see that there is no default slot there. So right before this final output pose, after component to local, we'll pull off and we'll just type slot and slot default slot. Okay, and this is again what enables us to play animation montages. So we'll compile and save that animation blueprint. Now, we'll do a save all, because I'm sure there's lots of things with asterisks at this point. So go back to the root content directory. Now remember that we are spawning in right now just as Manny, and I don't want to. So we're going to go into our third person folder, which is here somewhere, where that character blueprint lives. Blueprint's right here. BP _ third person character. Let's go to the viewport and start by changing out the mesh. Okay, and we're going to use the mesh that we like for Rose. She came, I think, with 2. So let's dock that for a second and find the one that we like more. So AE Rose, base mesh, and there was these two right here. I like the one where she's got more, frankly, more gear equipped. So I'm just going to select that, which will make it easy for me to just pop that in using the Use Selected Asset from Content Browser button. So click, and there she is. But she's using Manny's animation blueprint right now, and that's not the one that we want for her. So the one that we do want for her is the one that corresponds to the animation blueprint that we made, okay? That we retargeted, this one, okay? So I can find that, highlight it, and do exactly the same technique, and now she's got the right animation blueprint. We'll compile and save, and now we should spawn in as that character. So I'll hit play, and yes indeed, we are that character. So let me just evade what's his name for a minute so he loses interest. Okay. And just show off some of the animation features here that I like so much about this character. hopefully you'll notice that if I just don't do anything, the idle itself is a lot more interesting, right? It's a longer animation sequence and it looks great. Instead of just standing there with bad posture, she seems to be more alive. And also the locomotion, the running looks better, the jumping looks better. Ooh, I did a little double jump there. And of course we could, now that all of those other animations that were compatible with Ghost Lady are also compatible with Rose, they can be retargeted as well and turned into animation montages. Okay? So there's Rose, and she is working. So now let's look at some of the other animations that we could possibly consider retargeting. For example, I had a funny idea that maybe what we should do whenever she kills, this is a little silly, but whenever she kills the zombie, maybe she'll do a little dance, okay? And I've got this pack right here. It's going to show up as Con Emote. And under animations, we've got, let's see, different dances. Any of these are going to be able to be retargeted onto her, okay? So there's a whole bunch of them. And we can make montages out of them. So let's go back and find out where is the mesh. And again, I made that IK rig already. Okay, so now let's make an IK retargeter for that animation IK retargeter. And I'll call this IK, not IK, I beg your pardon, RTG underscore dance. Okay, open that up. And we're going to copy from our dance rig, and it's going to go onto Rose in this case. And we can again set our target mesh offset to 150. And we'll do our auto map chains, map all exact. And we can just preview. I think that looks fantastic. So that we can play any of these as montages if we want to. Maybe we'll even do a funny little music cue for when she kills the zombie. I might as well check them all because there are so few of them. Okay, so they look great. So before we do the retargeting, again, we'll make a little folder in Rose's main folder here where it says retargeted animations. Just like we did from Ghost Lady, I'm going to make a new folder to keep ourselves organized. This is going to be from Con Emote Dance. Okay, so that'll be obvious for me. And we're going to export into that directory, retargeted animations from Con Emote Dance, export, just like we did before. Oh, you know what? I made a mistake because I did not have all of the animations highlighted, so excuse me. I already have that one, so I'm going to select just the rest of them and export those two. And make sure it goes to the same place, from Con Emote Dance, export. Okay, and we'll do a save all. And we can just preview these once more. And all of them look terrific. Okay, let's continue retargeting. We don't need this retargeter open anymore. And we will next move to let's see, the next one is this Cyborg Ninja Killer, right? We don't need to retarget the animation blueprint, but the animation sequences, some of them are really good for attacks. That's why I chose to bring in this character. And it's a really cool looking character for some other game, but it's got things like hit reactions and let's see what its idle looks like. None of this is going to be used, but some of the melee attacks are really good. acrobatic types of attacks. There's a death animation. Okay. And it even has things like walk sneaky. I mean, it's a ninja after all. So I like those. So we're going to go ahead and go back into Cyborg Ninja Killer and animations. No, not animations. I beg your pardon. Meshes. Cyborg. And there's the IK rig that I made. So we're going to make an IK retargeter. I know this is repetitive, but at least I saved you the trouble of not forcing you to make your own IK rigs, okay? That was repetitive and boring. This is just easy. So I'll say RTG underscore cyborg ninja. Spell that right, okay? Open that up. We're going to copy from the Cyborg Ninja to rows. IK rows. And we will do as we've been doing, a target mesh offset of 150 units. Chain mapping, auto map chains, map all exact. Go back to the asset browser, and we'll just preview several of these just so that we can feel confident that they're all going to work. By the way, if I didn't mention it already, I did, in my IK rigs, I included the fingers, just in case we end up needing them for anything. These are all looking good. Let's look at some of the attacks. That'll be good for her swinging that baseball bat. So will that. Maybe we'll put collision boxes around her feet too, so that she can play this montage and kick the zombie in the face. That would be good. That's also good for swinging the bat. These two appear to be approximately the same. Oh wait, no they're not. This one's more acrobatic. Oh yeah, and that one uses her other hand too, so that could be good for the flashlight. Okay, so let's go make a folder for that in rows. Retargeted animations, again, new folder from Cyborg Ninja, so that we have a place to export those. Now we'll select them all, Control A or Command A, export, navigate to that folder from Cyborg Ninja, select it, and export the animations. We can Control S right now, and we can save this retargeter. You can see it's got a little asterisk. Remember, we have to save those as well. And now we've got those animations compatible with her. And we're going to continue. All right, so the next one, I've got two animation kits. One of them actually came with its own retargeter and IK rig. I think it might be this one. Let me just check. Animations, maybe not. Demo, demo, characters, mannequins, rigs. Yeah, this one actually, I didn't make this one. It came with, but it should still work. So let's use the retargeter that it came with. All right, and here I'm going to have to manually set the target IK rig, and that's going to be rows, which is right there. Okay, you can see this one is different because it used the UE5 mannequin rather than the UE4 mannequin, but it's still going to be the same procedure, 150. And we can't map all exact because, or we can try that. Let's see. Chain mapping, because they're technically this skeleton has a slightly different bone structure. So let's see, map all exact, and let's just see what how that works out for us. So we'll just play some of these animations and see how they translate. Oh yeah, I'm glad that I included the fingers, by the way, in her IK rig, because you can see the fingers are animating in many of these. Now these are going to look a lot different once we have the weapons in our hands. And I did review these before. So I know, I mean, there are just so many of them, but I know that some of them are really good for when you have, like, when you're holding swords and things. That's what they were actually meant for in the first place. So a lot of these attacks are going to be very useful for us. So let's go back to rows, make a folder for this, content rows, and this is going to be from dual, I think it's called dual sword. Okay, so make a new folder from dual sword, just so that's there. We'll select all these animations and export them to rows, retargeted, from dual sword, export. Maybe this will take a little longer because, or maybe not, we'll see. This one has more bones than that skeleton does. Okay, so I'm going to press pause and I'll be right back when this finishes. Okay, so that took about 45 seconds. It didn't take as long as I thought it would. But there's a lot more animations here, so when we click save, that process will take a little bit longer. Now that they're all highlighted, I might as well, just hit save all, why not? Save selected. So I hope you understand that the only animation blueprint that needed retargeting was the ghost lady, right? All of these are just animation sequences that we can choose from if we want to make montages to play. And we're going to do that only after we've added the weapons to the sockets on the skeleton, okay? So we still have a few more to retarget. So we're going to go to this dual sword. I'm going to call the first one just dual sword. You can see from dual sword. I'll probably do another one. I might as well make the folder now. So we'll go from dual sword 2 or something. From dual sword 2. Okay, and that's going to be already there. This, I think, has been saved, so we can close that. All right, so let's get back to that folder, this dual sword, the other one. And again, I did make an IK rig for this one. This one I made by hand, just so that you wouldn't need to do that. We do need to make a retargeter, so we'll do that. RTG underscore dual sword 2. Duh. Okay, open that up. We're going to be copying it from dual sword 2 to rows. Target mesh offset 150. And chain mapping, they should be identical because they both are using the same UE4 skeleton. So we can map all exact. That worked before anyway, even on the one that used the UE5 skeleton. So, but it's always good to then preview the animations. Just make sure that they're looking good. Okay, so that looks good. Yeah, I think they're all going to work just fine. Okay, and some of these are already montages, so I don't want to retarget those. So let's just filter this for animation sequences only so that I can just make montages that I need later. Okay, so we'll select them all, export them back into rows, retargeted animations from dual sword 2, export. Okay, that went much faster. And we'll save them all. And of course, if we wanted to, we could preview these. Okay, and let's see, enable root motion is checked for these, so hopefully her transform will update for any of these attacks where she's actually charging, if it turns out that we actually use them. Okay, so most of these, I'm noticing something. There appears to be like little tears where her clavicles are. So I'm not so sure that I love the result there. So let's try this again. Let's change the chain mapping. And we'll do map all fuzzy. That doesn't fix that either. Okay, so it's possible that the skeleton for this particular mannequin was set up a little bit differently. So I might want to redo this, but I'm going to first have a look at the skeleton there. So let's go back into Content, Dual Sword Kit, Mesh, and this is the skeleton. Let's see, it's got some sockets. No, this should work. As a matter of fact, there's no reason that this shouldn't work because I made the rig. I made the IK rig for it. Let me just see if I made any mistakes in the IK rig. I don't think I did. Okay, so we've got the spine. Let's see, full body IK. Let's make sure that the root is... yeah, that's already set as the root bone on the solver. So we've got the spine that goes from spine 1 to spine 3, left clavicle, left arm, upper arm to hand. The fingers are not that important for what we're looking for. The right clavicle was done by itself. And we've got IK goals for the left arm, for the right arm, for the left leg, and for the right leg. Okay, so let's just save that and see if there is another way that we can improve this. Let's go back into Rose's folder, retargeted animations. And I might end up deleting this, but I'm going to make another folder. And we'll say from dual sword 2_02. Okay? And if it turns out that I can make some improvements in the retargeting by using blend to source for the arms, maybe we can make those tears disappear. And if we can, I'll just export those animations once more, but into this folder, and we'll then try to delete this folder. I think we ought to be able to delete this because we haven't implemented them yet. Okay, and if that's the case, we'll just leave it at that. So that folder's full of animations right now, but you can see that this one is just empty and waiting. So we'll go back to that retargeter, and oh no, that's an IK rig, excuse me. So let's go back to the second dual sword kit, mesh, rigs, retargeter, and we'll go back to map all exact because they do have the same IK rigs, and we will re-examine. Let's take the left arm while we are in the asset browser, excuse me, in chain mapping. Let me just get an animation playing. Let's see. You can see those weird tears. Okay, so we'll go back to chain mapping and let's see if blend to source does anything helpful. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's try to use a different chain mapping. Let's try clear all mappings. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's goofed up now. So let's do that again. And auto map chains, map all fuzzy. Let's see if that works better. And we will try some of these animations. They look okay, but I see these tears in her clothing. Okay, so let's go again to our chain mapping, left arm, blend to source 1. That didn't fix it. Right arm, blend to source 1. It looks a little bit better, though, I think, the animation itself. It kind of gives her a hunchback, though. No, I don't like that. Maybe it's just the animation itself that I don't like. We'll have to see this after it's been retargeted, I think. So we'll set these back to 0 for these IK goals. And again, in the asset browser, I'll set the filter to animation sequence, select all of them, and export them into that other folder that we made, just in case. Retargeted, it's going to go there, export. This shouldn't take long. And we'll see, after we save them, if those tears are still visible. Oh, that's just a pose. Oh, did we crash? No. This is not one that we're going to use anyway. That's a little bit boring. But some of these are all right. That's a little bit weird. Because, you know, she looks sort of hunchbacked on that for some reason. I like that. That looks pretty good. Let's back up a little bit. And by the way, I just did that with my mouse wheel. Okay, I just scrolled back. Yeah, most of these are gonna have to be like root motion. In fact, I'm curious to see if in the other attack pack, the other dual sword kit, if in fact there's a separate folder that has just root motion animations. Let's see, animation sequence. Let's see. Enable root motion is set to true. I don't know if I unhover this, looks like these are mostly root motion animations. So we'll have to just make sure that we keep that in mind for implementation. Okay? All right, which we're not going to do right now anyway, but let's hit Save All. Save Selected. And now we're going to make some sockets. I think that's it, right? That's all that we have to retarget onto rows. So let's go to rows, and we're going to go to the base mesh and find the skeleton. And we're going to make some sockets, right? So we're going to do one for the left hand, right click, and we're going to add socket. And I don't mind just using the default name, hand left, hand socket. Some people like to rename them, some people don't. And we're going to do the same thing for the right hand. So let's find hand right, right click, and add socket. You can also, if you want to, this is something that is optional, but if you want to, you can create, let me see if I can do it here. Hand right socket. Can I add a preview mesh to this? Let's see. There is a way. I'm just not thinking of exactly how to do it at the moment. Let's see. Preview mesh. No. I might have needed to do it at the time that I made the socket. I might have been able to put that baseball bat into her hand here and just get it approximately translated into place. But that's okay. We can do it right inside of the character blueprint anyway. So we've got the two sockets that we need for the weapons that we're going to use. And all of these tabs, well, we'll keep the character blueprint open. That retargeter can be closed, that animation can be closed, and that skeleton can be closed now that it's got the sockets. Temporarily here in the character blueprint, when we place the weapons into her hands, if she's animating, if she's like doing what she's doing right now, it can be very, very difficult to get those objects into her hands correctly. So instead of having her in use animation blueprint mode, we'll just say use animation asset without specifying anything. And that will put her into her A pose. Okay? Now let's add the weapons into her respective hands. And even though this is your left and this is your right, remember it's reversed because we're looking at her from head on. So this is her right hand and this is her left hand. In her right hand is where I want that baseball bat. So with mesh highlighted, that's the character mesh, we're going to add a static mesh. Okay? Static mesh, this one. And remember, it was called baseball bat. So when I'm selecting it here, if I just type the word in the search baseball, I can find it. I just had to type base even, and I found it very, very quickly, right? So now is the time that we're going to try to finagle this into place, and it's also obviously much too large. And my camera is moving way too fast. So let's slow that down considerably. Yeah. Okay, so we'll rotate that and just get up an approximate right now for its scale as it relates to herself. Okay, because that looks gigantic, right? That looks like it's huge compared to when it's being held in her hand, right? At least I think so. I think that's going to be way too big. Right now I'm just roughly getting it approximately where it needs to be so I can sort of judge the scale. So that's too big, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep that highlighted and engage the padlock in the scale row in the transform section and just scale this down maybe 0.6. Does that look right? I think so. Maybe 0.65. Is that better? It's still big. I think 0.6 was better. Yeah. And remember, we can always come back in here and change it if necessary. All right. And let's now choose the parent socket. And the parent socket is going to be, that's going to be hand right socket. Hand right socket. Okay. And let's just zero out the transforms for this. So it's approximately near where it needs to be. And ooh, I forgot. Didn't mean to zero out the scale. That's going to be 0.6. Okay. So now we can get this approximately rotated where we need it. Now, it is a little bit inconvenient to have that pivot at the end of there. So let me see if I can move it, make a pivot offset. No, it's not letting me here. Okay, that doesn't work in this editor, it looks like. There's a way to change the location of that by using your middle mouse button and holding down a modifier key, but it's not working for me, at least not in this editor view. So I'll do it the hard way. We'll just rotate that and try to approximate it first. I do have snapping disabled right now. I don't remember disabling it, but I must have when I was just getting this ready. So okay, it's not quite right yet. See what feels just good. And maybe we'll rotate that a little bit. Up and out. And again, always helpful to look at it from multiple angles, just to make sure that nothing's weird. Okay, not bad, getting there. Tiny bit more. Since I'm gonna take the time to do this, I might as well take the time to do it pretty well. Now that that's attached, we can temporarily re-enable the animation blueprint on the mesh and make sure that that's okay. Whoa, what happened? Oh, it looked like it disappeared there for a second. And my screen just went dark, as happens occasionally on this computer, so I have to wait for it to come back. Give me 1 second. Okay, So now let's reselect the mesh, the character mesh, and change the animation mode back to using the blueprint. And now that bat is in her hand. But I can see that it's also clipping with her body a little bit. So that is changing my mind a little bit in terms of the angle, okay, that I want this bat to be. I don't want it to like penetrate through her clothing or anything while she's idling or when she plays another animation. So let's fix that. So go back to animation asset, and it's going to be rotated a little bit differently. So we'll select the bat again, and go back into rotation mode. I know this seems like it's being rotated a lot, but I'm going to be translating it again. And let's rotate it a little bit more, like so. And then we'll get that back into the hand. And it'll be angled differently. I might have overdone that rotation. We'll see. Yeah, that's probably more than it needs to be, but I'd like to see it while she's animating. So let's go back to the blueprint. So hopefully you can see what it was that I was trying to accomplish there. So now it's not going to be clipping against her right leg. I think perhaps that it needs to come forward maybe a little bit, or is that about good? A little bit forward perhaps. So let's get this baseball bat again, and we'll go back, and we'll just move it like so. Make sure it's still fitting into the hand. Okay. Reselect the character mesh, go back into the animation blueprint, and yeah, that'll work out just fine. Okay. I think it'll work well with our other animations too. So we'll compile and save. We'll select the mesh again, and we're going to add yet another static mesh. Like so. And this one is going to be the flashlight, right? So let's search for that. Flashlight. And that's going to go into her left-hand socket. Okay. You can see it snaps to approximately where it's supposed to be. And let's get her out of this animation. And get that positioned into the hand correctly. I think that looks really huge, so let's scale that down. How about 0.75? Round it off. Okay, that looks okay. And we'll rotate it. Kind of how we think we want it. Up a little bit. Okay, and now let's translate it down. In case you're wondering how I'm doing that without clicking up here, if you use Q, W, and E, that'll go, and R, frankly, so you can go from scaling to rotation. So it's the Q, W, E, and R buttons that are the shortcuts to switch between these different transform editor modes, right? So let's go back and move that forward a bit. Oops. Again, have to look at this from many angles. It's easy to get it wrong. So up into the hand. Being colorblind doesn't really make this easy. And let's rotate that a little bit more like this, I think. Okay. No clipping. Okay. Yeah, not sure. We'll have to see about the rotation there, but in order to know, let's get her animated again. And I can see here that that is not right. That is not good at all. So let's fix that. Go back into this mode. Yeah, the rotation's all wrong. I can see it plain as day now. Somehow it just wasn't obvious to me before. Should be pointed more forward, clearly. And angled more like her hand is angled, I think. Is that in there pretty well? Okay, so let's try with animation one more time. Okay, and yeah, it just doesn't look like it's up into the that space between the thumb and index finger enough to me. So I'm gonna work on that just a little bit more. Yeah, zoomed in like this, I can really see that space. So we'll translate that up. Make sure you've got the right thing selected. I almost moved the entire character mesh by accident, and that would have been wrong. This is better. Okay, keep checking. Now it does look like it still could be improved, right? Because there's that space now right next to the thumb. Okay, so I can still see it's not perfect. So we'll continue iterating this until it is the way we want it. Get a good view. Yep, I can see it. Really want to sell that it's in the hand. All right. So let's take a moment and really look at this and make sure that I don't see any gaps. Okay. While we're in this mode, by the way, I'll keep the static mesh of the flashlight, which we could, by the way, we could rename this. We might as well. We'll call it flashlight. I did that with F2. And this one is going to be the baseball bat. So F2, we'll say bat. Okay, that helps us to keep track of what's what. So let's select the flashlight, and we're going to attach a point light to that. So we're going to add a point light. And I could have put, I guess I could have put a socket, I guess, on the end of that flashlight, but it shouldn't be necessary because you see it's still indented or parented by the flashlight, which I misspelled, so let's fix that. Flashlight. Okay, good to notice. And select my point light again and get that into position. And where do I want it? I want it to be like right at where the light bulb of the flashlight would be. So remember, nanite kind of, it had an emissive material on that, and somehow that got ruined by enabling nanite, probably because it had some sort of translucency applied to it. But you're not going to see that anyway, because we're going to have not only this point light, which is probably way brighter than it needs to be at 5,000. So let's set it to 1,000 for now. And I think if we compile and save, this would be a good time to check her in the level. But before we do that, let's make it a little bit darker in here, just so that we can see how effective that flashlight is. Hold down Control L, and we can, steer the sun around until we have the lighting that we want. Remember, ultimately this is going to be like in a dark graveyard type of environment, so we're going to probably need to light the character as well. Something's causing that to glitch out. Hang on one second. I can see the zombies coming to get me. Okay, I know what's happening. She's not in her animation blueprint. So let's go Mesh, Animation Blueprint. Compile, save. Try that again. I'm interested in whether or not that flashlight bulb is too bright. And I think maybe it is. That looks really, really bright. It's going to have a spotlight also. So let's take that point light and reduce its intensity a little bit more. Let's say maybe 600. Compile and save. And also, it's got a huge radius here. I don't know if you zoom out, you can see that that's going to influence a lot around her. So we're going to reduce that attenuation radius quite a bit. Okay. And let's just round that off to an even 200, perhaps. Compile and save and see how that feels in play. To a really darkened area here. I think it seems pretty good, but obviously the character itself is not lit well enough. Let me just check a few things while I'm here, because I am working on my big Puget computer right now in my office. Let's set the material quality level to epic, and let me just check under build lighting quality. Set to preview, so I'll set it to production. Should look a little bit better. But in really dark spaces, yeah, you kind of can't see her face. So let's light the character as well. Get back in here, and then we'll also put a spotlight on the end of that flashlight. I'll do that first, in fact. Okay, so let's select the flashlight, and I'm going to add a spotlight. And make sure that we're steering that in the correct direction. So let's take her out of animation for a moment. Go back to the spotlight, which somehow got renamed accidentally. Spotlight. Okay, and that does not look like it's rotated in the correct direction to me. So I want to be able to kind of see where that flashlight is pointed. Let's get that down into position, roughly aligned with the point light. And now we can steer it using rotation. Let's make sure that its origin is where we want it. Check from many angles. All right, let me reduce the outer cone angle for a moment. This might be easier to see in terms of its rotation, that is, and its point of origin. Still not quite right. Okay, now I can see that it's a little bit off in terms of its rotation, right? This should be about parallel with the direction that the flashlight is. So we'll go back into rotation mode, wrong axis, try to get that more accurate. And we'll increase the outer cone a little bit more, and the inner cone. And let's also consider how far we want that to cast light. So that is, let me see, attenuation radius, excuse me. So I don't think that should just go on and on and on. Okay? All right, so compile and save. It's probably going to be too bright because, again, its intensity is 5,000. So I'm going to say 1,000 just as a guess for now, and we'll see how effective that is. We still haven't lit the character, but I want to see how well the flashlight is working in the level. Oh, she's still not animated. I keep forgetting to re-enable that. So I'll go use Animation Blueprint, compile, save, and play. Okay, so let's get close to something. Yeah, the spotlight is not as intense as I would like for it to be. Wish that zombie wasn't chasing me. I can see like the little thing it makes up against the wall there, the little spot. So let's go ahead and increase the intensity of that back to 5,000 and just see. Okay. Yeah, I think that works much better. And I also think that the cone radii could probably be larger. So let's go back to the outer cone, increase that, and the inner cone, increase that too. That's what produces the gradient, the fall-off gradient, so that it doesn't just have a sharp edge around it. Okay, so how's that feeling? Pretty good. You can imagine when she's out in the dark woods, right? And she can shine this on a gravestone or something. All right, that'll be fun. Okay, now let's finally light the character. So I'm going to just select the mesh for now, just so that we don't see that beam all of the time. And I'm going to turn on snapping for this part. So we will re-enable our grid snapping, and I might as well stop her from animating while we light her. Okay. With mesh selected, we're going to add a rect light, rect for rectangular. Okay. And when these come in, I like to first make sure that I get a good idea of which direction they're casting light, because it's not immediately obvious. So let's rotate that. Yep, that's the right direction, 90 degrees. And now we'll make sure that we've got it centered in front of the character, which it appears to be. We'll set the source height so it's about the same height as this character is. And let's just see. Maybe it needs to translate down a little bit. And it's probably going to be too intense. Let's also, we don't want it casting too much light on either side of her, so we can use the source width for that and adjust our barn door angle and length. Okay, and try to keep it confined like that. So let's see, 5,000 is going to be way too bright, so let's try 750. Okay, we won't know until we're actually in the level. I think and also when we tried this in class, it might have been, it may be the case that we'll need an extra light or set of lights for the face, but we don't know yet. Next thing we want to do is light her from the opposite side, so I'm going to right-click on this rect light and duplicate it. So there are two of them now. Okay, rect light and rect light 1. So now the old one is still there, right? That's still there, but now this one is behind the character and needs to be rotated 180 degrees. So like that. That's why I turned snapping back on, so I could get these just right. Okay, and maybe this one from behind, I don't know if it has to be as bright, but we'll see, I guess. Let's compile and save. Actually, set her back into animation. And again, we're going to go and test it in the level. Yep, I think the rect lights are too bright, indeed, especially when in combination with that flashlight, although it's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, I think it's pretty good. So let's go back into the character. I think this one could come up a little bit. So let's do that. And that this one, let's say maybe 500. And this one, 400. Compile and save, and we'll try that. It's getting a really dark area here. I think maybe still a little bit too bright. Still a little bit too bright. She's very, very illuminated, and she's supposed to feel like she's in the dark. So there's 300 for that one, and we'll try 300 for that one. And again, just keep on adjusting and iterating and testing until it feels good. Okay? So in a dark area, is that too much still? It's possible. It's also possible that the radii are too big for both of those. So we'll change the attenuation radius to 200, and for this one to 200 also. Maybe even less, 100. And this one to 100. And take that down to 200 intensity. Take this down to 200 intensity. Compile, save, test it again. This is probably going to be about the values we need right here. I still think that the back of her head needs to be... No, I think that that's too dark now. Okay, so let's go back to 300 for those. Now that we reduced the attenuation radius, let's set that back to 200, or maybe 150. Split the difference, go back, make this 150, and make that, let's try 275, and 275, compile and save. Get into the dark. Back of her head seems still a little dim, but when we look at her from the front, I think that looks pretty good from the front. And in the back, I just think that the back of her head is not lit well enough. So she needs sort of like an overhead sort of light, maybe even a point light. Or it could be that I just want to increase the source height on this one here. Maybe angle it, translate it up a little bit and angle it down toward her so that there are fewer lights. Let's see if that's any better. And again, checking the game. It's causing some weird flickering artifact. I don't like that, so let's get that rotated back the way it was. Actually, my rotation grid is too large. Okay, so let's bring that back down. And we'll set that back to the source height. Don't remember what it was. It's going to be the same as this. It's 150. So we'll set that to 150. Bring it down again. And I think maybe we'll just add one more point light. Parent it again by the mesh, and let's take her out of animation and go back to our point light. It's got a huge attenuation radius, so let's set that to 150 maybe, and go into getting that placed where we want it. It's this one down here. I don't want to cast that much light around the character. You know, that's going to be a lot. So let's bring that down 100, maybe 75, not 700 to 65, 75, and close that Norton warning. And maybe reduce the intensity. Let's try 500. Yeah, okay, well, really gotta see how it feels in the game. We're nearing the finish line here. Yep, and that's again just because I didn't put her back into animation. I think it looks like the light is too close, so we'll back that off. And maybe, yeah, I think that's fine. Maybe increase the attenuation radius back to maybe 85. Back it off a little bit more so she's not so shiny. Put the mesh back into the animation blueprint. Come on, Norton pop-up. We don't need you for this. Compile and save. And let's see if that looks better. Yeah, it looks like some interaction between that and the flashlight is causing that flickering. Okay, so I'm not loving that because I think what's happening is that their attenuation radii must be overlapping. So let's go into this again. Yeah, you can see how they occupy the same space. So let's reduce the attenuation radius for this even more, so it's not fighting with the point light, which can now be farther away and maybe a little bit brighter. Let's try 650. Compile and save, and we'll see. And if this doesn't work, then maybe what I'll do is I'll use a different kind of light on the back of her head. Oh yeah, and I also forgot that there's this other light here that it's probably overlapping with. So let's bring that down also. And we'll see. Bring that up and over. Okay. This may not be perfect. It certainly isn't. It's still problematic, but we can continue trying to get that perfect if we want to. I'm not going to right now just because it's taking more time than I expected. So let's just raise this up a little bit more and get it a little bit farther away and increase the attenuation radius again and get it a little closer to her perhaps and see if this works. Yeah, that is interacting as well. It's just not as bad. They still overlap. So I can get it farther away and make it brighter. 500. Okay. And even if this is not perfect, this is where I'm going to stop for now, just because I don't want to take up the rest of your lifetime with this. But let's see. In the dark, it's not too bad because, you know, some of her illumination, it's casting nice shadows, I think, on her body. I could possibly just increase the intensity of this rect light a little. Okay, so maybe 300. And we'll see if we can call it quits there. Let's see, this one, maybe again higher and farther. And let's get it much farther. And my screen just went dark again, so you'll have to bear with me for about 10 seconds before it comes back. I don't think that's going to be in the recording though. So we'll go for 600 intensity, compile and save. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'll come up with a technique to control that better in your absence. But you can continue messing with the lights and see what you think. Okay? But I think that this is working pretty okay in context. Okay, that looks good to me. And I also like the beam from the flashlight. I think that that's, it seems, is that really lining up? Maybe that needs to be steered a little bit more. Oh wait, no, I forgot which hand was the flashlight, excuse me. Looking at that from above helps. Okay, that's not quite right, but it's almost right. But you know what we have to do to fix that, okay? We just have to go back to the spotlight that is attached there and refine the angle and maybe the transform just by a little bit, okay? So I'm going to end the video here, and let's go back out here and make it a little bit more daytime. And she doesn't look overlit, I don't think, when the sun is out, so that's good. And in the dim, that's looking pretty great. Okay. And in the next video, we will implement her attacking, right? We don't have any of the attack montages made yet. And when the zombie comes up and attacks her, I want to make sure that there's like sound and particles in the form of like blood spurts and things like that, and hit reactions and whatnot, and that she also has the ability to defend herself. Dance, dance, dance. Woohoo! Okay, now forget about it. I'll whack you with a flashlight and a baseball bat. Okay? All right, everybody. That's enough. An hour 16. And we at least have our character looking good. And I'll fix the beam on the flashlight, as will you. And we will catch you for the next one. All right? We're not quite done yet, because we've got to implement all our montages and our damage and health system and our sound. Our music manager still has to be done, and putting them into like an outdoor, dark, foresty, broken down graveyard, I think would be the appropriate environment for this. Maybe we can also have a safe house that she can escape into in case she needs to hide out from the zombies if her health gets low. All right, we're going to do all of that. So for now, though, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking, and that's it. So we'll say goodnight. We'll see you next time. Bye.